We're just gonna re-roll that cause it was super long. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carey and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today I've got a fun video for you guys. If you've been watching my channel for the last couple of months, you know that at the end of November, I committed to a 5-year plan to become a full-time author and content creator. And that 5-year plan officially started on January 1st, just 2 days ago. And you guys may recall that as a part of that plan, I wanted to start exploring writing short stories. Short fiction is an area that I have absolutely no experience in. Although I did write novellas for Scribd, which is now Everand, a subscription service, for a while, my bread and butter is really long form and novels. But as I was thinking over my 5-year plan, it occurred to me that many authors I know and love have also branched out into short fiction at some point in their career. It is something that I want to learn how to do. And what better time than the present? So last month in December, I used some online prompt generators to put together a pool of short story prompts from which I can choose one each month this year to attempt to write. I say attempt because I'm still not certain I'll be able to successfully pull this off. I've got 15 prompts of varying lengths from 1,000 to 5,000 words. And as a fantasy enthusiast, I intend for all of them to be fantasy-based, although I could be convinced to branch out into some other form of speculative fiction. So today what I would like to do is use a dice roller to pick a random prompt for the month of January and then outline it together with you guys. And this idea was specifically inspired by Carey Writes, who did something very similar. She needed to write a short story for a writing group, and I thought her process of figuring out the story on camera was just so fun and inspiring, and I wanted to try it out. So come along with me as I outline my very first short story. So first things first, I'm going to use 2 d8s to pick my prompt because I have a total of 15. And if I happen to roll a 16, it'll just be the number 1 because you can't roll a 1 on 2 d8s. So let's roll this dice and see which prompt I am writing this month. 6. So now we're going to go to my bank of short story ideas and find out what 6 is. Project Float, which the prompt is your fantasy world is an island floating on water. The story involves manipulation of time and something precious is lost. Unfortunately, the length here is 5,100 words. I'm going to trim that down to exactly 5,000, which is not what I was hoping for. I was hoping for a shorter one, but hey, maybe starting long is actually beneficial to me because I am more used to long form. I'm choosing to believe that is the case. So I've got my prompt. I've got one little note that I left for myself here that says, maybe the thing that is lost is what keeps the island afloat. So that's interesting. We've got our prompt. We've got some ideas and we've got a pretty large word count. So that gives me some flexibility. All right, so we've got our handy dandy notebook. We've got this nice blue pen. These are our tools of the trade for the day. So we have Project Float, which has a word count target of 5,000 words. We know that it takes place an island floating on water. It includes a manipulation of time and something precious is lost. And then my first initial thought was that the precious thing that was lost is whatever is keeping the island afloat. We know that the inciting incident should be something precious is lost. Or maybe the villagers or the people who live on the island notice that the water is creeping up and they realize, oh my God, we're sinking. It occurs to me that we need a character, don't we? For some reason, something is sticking out to me like a young man who is the son of someone important in the village, maybe a high priestess or like a leader of some kind, and he is estranged from them. But we also have to work in the manipulation of time. What if... Interesting. What if we had a main character who the antagonist is himself from the future and he takes the thing that is powering the island or whatever that is keeping the island afloat. And so our main character has to confront what led him to make that choice in the future. Is it something to do with his estrangement maybe from his family. Interesting. So that could lead to many questions of how do you know what the future is, and how do you stop a future and a fate that you can never know what choices led there. Interesting. So now I'm asking myself, at the start of this story, what does our main character want? He's estranged from his family. Maybe he feels like the black sheep. He feels less important or less special, or like he just doesn't have a place within the family unit, or he's living under the shadow of whichever member of the family is the important one. So maybe he wants to show them up. Maybe he's striving to prove his worth and that he can stand on his own without their notoriety propping him up. That could be reflected in the antagonist, the future version of himself. So then the theme would be coming back and realizing that he was never really overshadowed by his family. He just imagined that. He had his own importance on his own. And if he keeps going down that self-destructive thinking, he could end up in a place where he is dooming everyone on the island. I kind of like that, actually. So now it's time to think about the shape of the plot itself. We know that the inciting incident is that the island has started to sink, and that our lead character is a young man who wants to prove himself. If we are starting with the island sinking, if the person that this young man is connected to in his family has something to do with an item or something that is powering the island, that is keeping it afloat, he would know at once that something must have gone wrong with it. He might have internal knowledge about how to access that item, or he might be able to go to his family and find out what's going on from there. Oh, what if when he shows up to find out what's going on, his family accuses him of taking it, and that is his clue that something weird is happening, because the future version of himself doesn't look that much different from his present day self. So what if the thing that has led to this estrangement with our main character is that his sister or sibling was chosen to succeed the parent who has the important job in taking over that important job, leaving him feeling maybe he deserved it more or whatever, but that sibling vouches for him and says, no, he couldn't have done it. I saw him before and it wasn't him. So the only thing I'm having trouble with now is trying to figure out, if that's the sequence of events, how is the main character allowed to go off in search of the real culprit? And how do they figure out that it's him from the future? Or is that just something that they stumble on when they finally catch him? So what if then there was another witness who comes forward and says, it looked like you, but it looked like an older version of you. And then that triggers someone to say, time magic, but I thought that was illegal or forbidden or not real. And meanwhile, the island is still sinking and picking up speed pretty quickly. So they are on a very, very short clock. So they say, oh, it must have been him from the future. Somehow they arrive at that conclusion. And then they say, where would you hide? Where would you take this if it was you? Like, where would you hide out? And so the main character has to lead this search party, maybe of just his sibling, and maybe one other person, or maybe just the two of them, on this hunt to go find this item that this future version of himself stole. And during that time, they're able to talk and understand each other a little bit better and understand where he's at or where his place is in the family. And that's when some of those themes come in. It just occurred to me that by dooming the island, the antagonist, who is the future version of our protagonist, is essentially killing himself. Because if the past version of himself dies, then what would happen to him? And it creates this weird paradox, right? So then maybe the antagonist must know of a way to save the past version of himself secretly while the rest of the island sinks. Which then has the protagonist questioning, is what my sibling said really true? Do I really have a place here? Or is this future version of myself who's telling me they never loved you, they hated you, this is all of this bad stuff, which led him to then making this choice to doom the island, which is correct? And what is the right thing to do? I mean, obviously not killing everyone would be the right thing to do, but that is the dilemma that he has. Because he is still very much seated in his angry feelings towards his family. I kind of think that's everything I need, actually. Except I think it would also be really interesting if at the very end it's alluded to that the parent who the main character has all of his anger towards is actually the one responsible for the time magic in the first place. I think that would be kind of an interesting, like, bum 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 moment right at the end. But apart from that, I think that's pretty much everything that I need. I'm kind of now glad that I got a 5,000 word count on this, because this feels like a lot to try and cram into 5,000 words. If I could get it down even less than that, that would be fabulous, but I would be dubious of that on my first attempt. So just to recap, we've got a floating island, a item that something precious that goes missing, time travel. We've got a main character who feels estranged from his family, who feels like the black sheep, who feels rejected because their sibling was told that they will inherit this very important job that one of the parents holds within the society. And this makes the main character very jealous and feeling very, very angry at his family. We open on this floating island that is powered by this powerful artifact starts to sink, which is the first indication that something is wrong with the artifact. And through the course of the investigation, they realize that it is the future version of the main character who stole the item. From there, the main character has to wrestle with the question of what happened in his life that led him to making such a drastic choice, and what his place in the family is, what his place in the society is, and is it worth it to really hold on to all of that anger. Obviously, it doesn't seem like it's worth it in the end if that is where you end up. So that was kind of fun. I'm kind of excited to write this. I am unfortunately at the moment kind of behind on Secrets of Empyrean. So that's going to have to kind of take priority, but I'm really looking forward to getting into this and actually writing my first short story. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a island emoji for Project Float. In my next video, I will have a writing vlog for you in which I am trying real hard to get to the end of this second draft. Of Seekers of Empyrean. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.